bring up this training. It's a very important training. So for those of you guys who are newer meeting attenders, there's different things that we train on, okay? I think that most people think that the training should be about products. And we do train a lot about products. Recently, not as much as we were before. Before we were like 100% product. We're always going to do a little bit of mindset like I'm talking about right now. We'll talk about recruiting like Josh and Xander usually do. And we'll talk about products. So there's always going to be a mix. So that's why you got to come to all the meetings. Sometimes it's going to be a lot of mindset. Sometimes it's going to be a lot of product. Sometimes it's going to be a lot of recruiting. I think last week was a lot of recruiting. But every time you come, you get a different piece of the puzzle. And then if you come enough times, that puzzle's going to start to form into a picture where you really understand the business. But if you come once, you're going to say, oh man, all they talked about was this. No, you just didn't come enough, right? This is one of the most important trainings that I could ever do. Because as I get older and more mature and in the business or whatever and have more experience, I start to realize that it's all about training your mind. People are weak-minded. They don't have a trained mind. And that is why we can say all the things that we say and give all the resources and offer all the support, but they still don't make it because they don't think like a winner. They don't think like a successful person. And why would we, right? If we didn't grow up around successful people, and that wasn't modeled for us by our parents, which it wasn't for me, or by our friends, then where would we get this magical thinking from, right? You have to learn it. You have to be around people who are speaking this language. So if you have a notebook or whatever, I would take good notes on this because this is pretty much everything, right? How you think. What is your mental operating system? When you get a phone, right, when Apple, every year, they come out with a new iOS, which is their operating system, that's the OS, and you download that, your phone, it behaves very differently. It looks very differently. It responds very differently. You have an operating system in your mind, you can change that operating system. You can upgrade that operating system. If someone has an old operating system, if I go to my mom's phone and I'm like, what is this? This is like the old one. It doesn't feel right, right? That's what happens to people's thinking. They have old thinking. They haven't changed their mindset. There's something called awareness, right? How aware are you of what's going on? How aware are you of how you're being perceived by other people? You see people acting crazy, saying stupid stuff, and you're like, how are those words coming out of your mouth? They have low awareness. So if I see Xander's kid who's 4 years old, and all of a sudden he pulls down his pants, right? He doesn't care. He's laughing, running around with no pants on. He can do that. A kid can do that, and they're not embarrassed because you know what? They have low awareness. But as you get older, you're supposed to develop some awareness. And so you go to the store and someone's literally flipping out and yelling and screaming and cursing, and they're basically the same thing they were as a 3-year-old. They just haven't grown up or gotten any more aware. So you got to make sure that you become more aware, right? You can't just train skills. Oh, teach me what to say. Teach me the script. Teach me how to present. It's not about that, right? You have to train your operating system. Ever met someone working hard but going nowhere? Happens all the time, even in this business, because they're working but they don't have the right mindset. Oh, I wish I could find someone really, really good. You may, but are they going to want to stay under you? America's not like a pyramid where you just recruit someone and you're making money for life. It's not like that. People can pass you. People can leave because they don't like you. Can you keep somebody, right? You got to have the right mindset. Gain awareness of a different way to think. When I came into Primerica many, many years ago, 22 years ago, I had a bad temper. I was an angry person. Right? Someone says something to me and I'm flying off the handle. And then I started to get around people who thought differently, they behaved differently, and I was like, wow, If someone said that to me, if that happened to me, I would get so mad. This person's so calm. I started to see there's different ways to react. There's different ways to respond. There's different ways to behave. There's different things you can do in different situations, but I had never seen that. My parents are always yelling, right? So you have to gain awareness of a different way to think. You have to recognize the patterns in yourself. So you come to training and someone's like, hey, don't think like this and don't do that, and that's not the right belief. And then when you start thinking, you're like, hey, I'm doing exactly what they were saying. Because someone pointed it out. That's the power in coming to the trainings, right? Number one, this is a pattern in your mind that's holding you back, limiting beliefs. We aren't limited by our abilities, we're limited by the story that we accepted. You know, I said this speech in my speech at the convention one time. What is the story in your mind that you play about yourself? What is that movie that you are starring in your mind? That is where your life is going to go. And if you're telling yourself, I'm not a recruiter though, right? I can't do big production. I'm not naturally outgoing. I still say this to this day, but that doesn't mean it's going to hold me back. I'm still the quietest guy in the room. I'm still the most introverted person, but it's not going to hold me back. It's not limiting me. It's a reality, but it's not going to limit me, right? Nobody wants to hear from me. I could never build a big business. These are limiting beliefs that people have. You may have a different one. I come from this type of family, or I'm a single mom, or I'm a single dad, or my parents were like this. I don't think I could be one of those people. Look, today we're all dressed up. You don't know what we looked like when we first came in. We were all a mess. A mess. Thinking small. People think small, they think it's responsible. I don't want to talk too big. That's more than enough. I don't need to make that much money. I could have stopped. He met me, I was making 20 grand a month. I could have stopped at 20 grand a month. No, I want more, and I'm not embarrassed about it. And I don't care what other people think about it. Because they're not paying my bills, and I'm not paying their bills. Right? People set small goals because it's a disguised fear. They're scared of stretching themselves. There's a saying, it's a cliche. Thinking big costs you nothing. Thinking small can cost you everything. A lot of times people look back in their career and they're like, man, the only thing that I would have changed was just thinking even bigger, because I've accomplished so much. What if I had thought double? But you got to train yourself to do that, right? Setting goals you know you can hit. After the meeting, hey man, what do you think we can do the rest of the month? Oh, I'd love to get one sale. Okay, that's safe. You're thinking small, right? Only contacting the easy people. Protecting yourself from disappointment. That's why we don't set appointments. We're thinking small, right? We don't want to make those calls. Building a business that fits your comfort zone instead of your potential. People don't grow to their potential. They're trapped inside their identity. I say this all the time. Where is the most potential in the world? The graveyard. Yep. Because people die with it. They don't ever use it. You got to change your identity, your standards, the story you have about yourself, so you can expand to that. That's what I try to work on with people. I'm recruiting people that never made any money in their life. I want them to make 500 grand. It's not me teaching them more about investments. It's about expanding their thinking. Because they're trapped by their identity, right? People worry. This is a bad mindset, right? Worry is a prayer for what you don't want. Think about that. People worry things are going to happen. What if this happens? What if that happens? You're literally praying for what you don't want because you're rehearsing your problems. And the worst part is, those things haven't even happened yet. They just could happen, and you're replaying that over and over again, right? People spend more time imagining rejection than actually getting rejection. You know, one of the mentors that I had, he told me, he was like, it's so simple, just make 10 calls a day. Oh, who do I call? Just make 10 calls. They could be for recruits, they could be for clients. Just make 10 calls. Call your referrals. 10 calls a day. Even if you do 5 days a week, 50 calls. Those 10 calls could take you 20 minutes. Most people won't pick up. But why don't people do it? Because we are already thinking about what if they say no before we even answer the phone. It's holding us back. Predicting failure, right? More time predicting failure. More time protecting emotions. Of all the stuff we've worried about, how much of it has actually happened? And even if it happened, did we survive? Did it kill you? Maybe the appointment didn't go well. Maybe the person did say no. Did you die? Was it that big of a deal? This is huge. This is something that's killing so many people, is the need for approval. I'm not a perfect person. I used to be like this too. And then I shook it off and I realized, look, even two of my best friends, Shaq and Brett, I used to follow them around, like my mom said, you're like the little puppy, you follow them around. Because they were older than me and I used to just do whatever they did. Luckily, I followed them into this business, so it worked out for me. But, am I gonna go to them for approval? Those guys, they don't like the stuff that I like. They don't like to do the things that I like to do. They don't like to go to the place that I like to go. We're not in high school anymore where the only place to go is the mall or someone's house or to play ball. We have options now. And I started realizing, why am I asking these guys? We don't have those interests, in common. It's so funny, like, I went to, one of the most annoying things that my wife does, and it's not a bad thing, but she has a very hard time choosing on the menu what to order. So she'll ask the waiter, like, what do you think? Ask like, what's the most popular thing? Why are you asking this person what they think? They don't give a shit, number one. There's nothing because you're taking so long. Right? And this is like case in point. So one time she's like, what do you think? And he's like, oh, well, I would do this. And I was like, why would you do this over that? He's like, well, that one's meat and I don't eat meat. Of course he's going to say the other one. He doesn't eat meat. You're asking someone about meat that doesn't eat meat. That's how crazy it is. But that's how dumb it is to ask people about the business that are employees. They're caterpillars. You're trying to be a butterfly. Does that make sense? It's a metamorphosis. It's a whole different thing. You can't go to broke people or people with no money, ask them about big money decisions. People that seek security and go ask them about seeking freedom. It doesn't work that way, right? And that is why we're afraid to recruit our friends, because what are they going to think? Over-explaining things, right? Scared to follow up. Maybe I'm bugging them. Closes are too soft, right? Taking no so personally. Oh, they said no to me, this, that. Dude, look, if people are saying no to you, maybe you make some adjustments like, hey, I'm asking this person for a favor, they're not willing to do it. I now have to adjust the way I look at our relationship. But you can't take it that personally when people say no. You got to get acclimated to hearing no all the time. If I had, young kids right now, which I don't, that's the one thing that I would teach them if they were teenagers, like, go into something where you're going to hear no, because that's what's limiting everybody. Scarcity thinking. This is so big, right? Thinking that there's not enough clients. There's not enough recruits. And people think of this at different scales. When I first started the business, my cousin, he was like, the kind of numbers you're talking about, at some point everybody will be recruited. Right? Such a dumb thing to say. He's a PhD. Really dumb thing to say. Still today, nobody knows anything about Primera. We're not a big company at all relative to what's going on in the world. But 20 years ago, he said, you guys are going to recruit everyone and the business is going to end. When you believe there's not enough to go around, you shrink. Right? People are scared to, like, oh, don't tell anyone I'm doing this or that because you're scared. They're going to take your business. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. There's enough business for everybody. You know, in California, you'll have some of the top offices in the whole country, and they're in the same shopping center. There's enough business for everybody, right? People are scared of losing a prospect, fear of competition, of another office, right? Protecting small numbers instead of expanding. I need these recruits. I need them to join, or else I don't know what I'm going to do. I need these people to buy. I only have this list. There's a million people out there. Who are we looking for? People who need help financially, you know, with financial advice, people who want to make more money on the recruiting side, like that's everybody. How many people are out there? Millions. You just need to know what to say to them, right? Don't think. What's the opposite of scarcity thinking? An abundance mindset. There's enough for you. There's enough for everyone. Luckily, you're in a business, 20 sales a month, you're rich. And you don't have to do them all yourself. You can have 5 people, everybody does 4. You can have 10 people, everybody does 2. You can have 20 people, everybody does 1. You figure out how you want to get there, what multiplication you want to use, but there's tons of opportunity out there, right? Catastrophizing. Hear this all the time. People mentally turn inconvenience into catastrophe. I called someone and they ignored me. Dude, I just called this person and they hung up. People still do it today to me, right? I drove all the way there and they weren't there. This is business. Have you ever talked to a salesperson? Have you ever talked to a business owner? Right? It's not a catastrophe. It's like, it's Tuesday. When I say to my team, I'm like, okay, and the sun came up. Same thing. You got rejected, the sun came up. That's every single day. That's not a new thing. You can't act like one thing happened and, oh my God, this happened. Just move on. Whatever happened that you're catastrophizing, did it happen to someone else in the business? Did they get over it? Did they succeed? All right, cool. Borrowed thinking. I'm almost done here. 2 minutes. Borrowed thinking. Whose thinking are you actually running? You know, another word for this is your mental model. What is your mental model? Where did you get this from? Right? Your family handed it down to you? Very old story in a very old book I read where someone was making a Christmas ham. And they cut the ham in half, they threw it away, and then the rest of the ham they put into the oven. And then so someone came over and they're watching them do that, and they said, why are you cutting the ham in half? They're like, I don't know, my grandma always used to do that. And when they did the research, they realized that back in the 30s, the ovens were this small, you couldn't fit the whole ham, so they had to cut half of it, and they didn't have fridges or anything, so, and the person is still doing it. That's what happens, right? We hear these things from our family members, from our coworkers, right? From society, from social media. We adopt these beliefs. It doesn't mean that they're true. You have to start to, if there's some advice I have for you, start to challenge your beliefs. Don't ever fit into a box of what one type of person's supposed to think. Even politically, it's like, okay, fine, you're on the right, you're on the left. Literally everything you have to agree with, you're not an intelligent person. There's no nuance to anything. This is what they believe, this is what they believe. You're just not intelligent. You're a total consumer. You just consume everything that's given to you. You don't even know how to think. Right? Now, can you lean one way or another? Yes. But don't ever just adopt all the beliefs from one side in any of these categories, right? Broke people's opinions about wealth and business. So many people think, right? Especially on social media, what's going on right now. People think the rich are bad, and this is happening, and that's happening, there's too many. You know, Jeff Bezos said something in an interview the other day that was very important. He said, my contribution through the businesses that I've created is much more than I could give all the money I have to charity. It will never even touch the contribution that my businesses are making to society. Wealthy people are creating jobs, they're creating value, they're creating shareholder value if you own the stock, right? And right now, broke people, right, that aren't willing to wake up early, aren't willing to work hard, aren't willing to get rejected, they're putting people down because they weren't willing to do the hard work. That's not right. Doesn't mean all rich people are good, but they're definitely not all bad, right? So hopefully that's helpful to you guys.